Hello, our friends, Evolutionary Energy Arts family.
Hello there, welcome back.
So we want to talk about more than what this is saying. This is saying understand 3 states of consciousness, 3D, 4D, and 5D. We want to go to at least 60 and maybe even beyond that, really, and also discuss other aspects of consciousness. I just want to make sure we're going good, so there's no trickery afoot.
Right.
It's an interesting thing to delve into is consciousness. And what exactly is consciousness?
It's what we are. It's what we experience. It's our expression of, ta-da, whatever.
And I laid out this video, and then at the last second, I decided, I'm going to go in reverse. Why not? I've never done that before. Let's talk about this in the reverse of how I was going to talk about it, because I think backward or forward, we could approach it from different aspects, and maybe we'll see different things. Mm-hmm. When you get down to it, let's go through some basics. What's this? Well, this is actually a car CPU. So, this is the computer. This is the brain of a car, so to speak. And so if you take this out in a modern day car, your car is not going to do anything. And these are some brains. And by the way, you can see the size of a bottle-nosed dolphin. Pretty comparable, maybe even a little larger than a human. And here we have a chimpanzee, rhesus monkey, and the rat. And interesting, is it not? The brain is not where your consciousness truly resides. Think of your brain. Its relationship to your body is the same as that of a CPU to a car.
I see the brain as a receiver, like an antennae.
Yes. Yeah, it is. It is. Again, it's getting it from the bigger you. The bigger you. Because we're not the body. The body is ours, sure. It's our vehicle. So if we're using the car analogy, you're the driver in the car. The brain is the CPU, and that helps you to, helps it to go. Tell it what to do. Do things like the timing of the firing sequence of the pistons and all.
And there are these really cool studies that have finally, in this day and age, have proven that our thoughts definitely do not come from within. Isn't that crazy? Our thoughts. They've figured it out. Thank you, science, even though I don't always agree with it, and I think they cover up a lot of stuff. But that one thing really struck me as, okay, my thoughts do not come from within my brain.
Yes, exactly. And many people have had out-of-body experiences, found them outside of the body. And I've known people that were comatose for long periods of time or clinically dead, and still their thoughts went on. They weren't operating their body besides on, a basic level, not with their conscious thoughts. Yet they still were, and they were still able to think. They were still able to see what was going on in the room, even though their eyes were closed. And that gets me to, let thine eye be single, and thy body will be full of light. I'm talking about the third eye, which does have rods and cones. But even beyond that, when we look at those spirit orbs and we see faces in them, again, that's actually what most of us look like. Is it just a spirit orb? Mm-hmm. In reality, when we're out of this body, the chakra system draws energy into the body. It draws it into the energy body, which then translates down to the physical body. When we do energy work on people, we fix problems that are in the energy body, and it translates to the physical body, and often very quickly. Very, very quickly. I mean, I can't tell you how many people's headaches I have been able to get rid of in just a matter of moments over the years, and other things as well. People with insomnia, people with ringing in the ears, and much more serious things, such as tumors and things like that. Again, sometimes it happens quick, sometimes it takes a long period of time. And it's because we are composite beings. So we are so much more than we think, guys. So much more than we think. We don't understand just how grandiose and complex we truly are. So each one of these chakras can relate to a different density. And the root chakra, you could even relate that to 1D in some ways. Crown chakra, maybe you're going to relate it to 7D, or at least, to 5 or 6. Each one of these chakras in the Vedic philosophy is governed by a deity, a presiding deity as well. And there are root sounds to the chakras that can activate them and open them up. And that it's a prerequisite to having the Kundalini be activated. But your Kundalini could have been activated in the past, and you could have a traumatic experience, and your chakras can close down. Different ones can close down. And then as long as you're able to just open up the chakras, the Kundalini will flow again once it's initiated. So in effect, we're really kind of like these Russian dolls. And I've said that before so many times. Each one of them represent a different layer of our body, or energy bodies going on up. From the physical body, the etheric body, and then going on up through the astral and the emotional, different spiritual bodies, all the way on up. And we don't even know how far out that goes, as there are psychics that have seen as many as 13 or 14 different bodies, layers, to just an average human being. So when the physical body is shed, it's just one that's gone. One layer is gone.
Which is so cool to think about, and actually when I did lose a very, very, very dear friend of 25 years, it was my understanding of energy and how it simply transforms. That's what helped me, hold everything together and help all of the family that lost her. So that's just how it is. It just transforms.
There's a holographic nature to our reality. Many scientists are now coming to think that everything we see around us is really a projection from a different dimension or density. And there's a fractal nature where we could look to nature and we could see repeating patterns. We've talked about how if you look at the structure of a brain, the neurons, the neural network, it very much resembles what we see out in the stars. And we see it in other things as well. This repeating patterns, and people were well aware of this in the ancient days, and they probably understood it much better than we do now. Nature spirits, the whole Devic kingdom, and the Devic kingdom is expansive. Every single flower, every single plant you have has a Deva assigned to it, a conscious being. So we might see them in our mind's eye as like a little fairy or just a little twinkle of light. How many of you have been out in your garden and seen a little twinkle of light?
Oh, how often does that happen? Or how often have you looked to the side and you see a little feather laying next to you? They're talking to you.
They are talking to you, and we used to talk to nature so much more than we do in the modern age. And we actually would see the personalities and the personifications in nature, even in the different trees. If you go to a tree, ask its permission to lay your hands on it and exchange energy with it, you can feel it. I could feel the sap flowing through the tree. It flows like the veins, blood through the veins. You could feel it. You could feel its pulse, its heartbeat, so to speak. I remember the first time I felt the heartbeat of the earth itself was when I was doing Qigong out in the woods in Ohio. And it was just an awesome, amazing, inspiring feeling to feel the heartbeat of the earth itself pulsing through the roots in my feet that I had sent down into the earth in order to pull up that earth energy to nourish my energy bodies and eventually my physical body as well.
And trees are very, very good for if you're having a bad day, you can ask the tree to take that energy from that day or other days down into the ground to be recycled.
There's a symbiotic relationship that we're supposed to have with nature. Trees breathe in what we breathe out, vice versa. We nurture, care for them, we eat of their fruits. Sometimes we eat their roots. And in the end, we put the body to rest and they nourish from the body. So it's a symbiotic relationship.
Makes me wonder who's feeding who.
Right. Yeah. Who's feeding who, really? The other thing too is, there's so many legends of people from different densities. So many legends of people falling asleep and then being in a different world, falling in love with beings from a different density as well. Very, very humanoid beings, maybe a little different. And, there are people, beings walking through us all day long on different densities. And then we add to the fact that there's so many discarnates out there that are, roaming the earth still, that haven't gone through the normal process of doing a life review, relaxing, enjoying themselves, taking a break before coming down. Often it can be the case of what we would call a shattered soul or some sort of trauma. You find tons of this in battlefields.
Oh, you do. And, a lot of times, if they can get their wits about them, they do go to a place that I call the resting place, and they gather themselves and they heal. I do see some actually in what looks like to be kind of like a hospital type environment so that they can heal. But then there are, unfortunately, are the others that they don't even know what they're doing.
The day before my mom passed, I was doing standing meditation. We're 3,000 miles on the West Coast, and she's on the East Coast. And I felt a touch of my chin and a tug on my beard, and I knew it was her, and I knew her time was close. She was out of body already, and she just came to visit me and just to let me know that she was going to be leaving. And so I knew that. And then when she did leave, then Cindy saw right away she was running around thrilled, because she was always so active and so physical, and she was so happy to be out of the body and relieved, to be not in constant pain anymore, and be able to dance, which was one of her favorite things, was to just go around, frolic, and dance. And when my dad had died 20 some years earlier, the next night he appeared to my mom, and it really startled her because she'd never had that type of a visit before, but she saw him clear as day, so she knew that his consciousness had still gone on. And that, that's such a blessing to have that. I think people had that more in the days past, where they would know and acknowledge that they were visited by a loved one. Yet in these days that we're heading into, it will be more and more common again, because our third eyes are awakening. We're going up in vibration. We're going to be able to see people of different densities. We'll be able to see the nature spirits. And really, in some schools of philosophy, the thought is that everybody starts out as an elemental being, taking care of a single plant, a single flower. This is kind of a starting point in so many ways, or one of the starting points. You could even go down farther into the lowest densities you could think of, like rocks and things like that. But we progress up on the scale, and these beings are on their path to eventually becoming part of the fish, bird, animal kingdom, eventually human kingdom. And then what happens after that? Well, going up into the Devic or angelic realms for those that are so inclined. And of course, this evolution of the spirit takes long periods of time. Yeah, we're talking many, many, many lifetimes. In many cases, thousands or hundreds of lifetimes, or even more. And maybe, you want to stay in a particular area. That's up to the soul, really, and also as well as the karma incurred. So many people in other ages, and even people now, are seeing the elemental beings of nature that are all around us, and recognizing that everything has a consciousness. Every plant, every tree, even every rock, every crystal has a consciousness. So again, there's a fractal nature to our world all around us. This is the as above, so below. That old tradition, that old saying we get out of the Hermetic tradition. So the Kabbalah in the West, and the Hermetic tradition, the Western mystery tradition, had to be, again, a mystery tradition, because, talking about things like this could bring about a sentence of death. in the era of the church and the Inquisition, and time of the Crusades and the witch burning time. But this is the nature of reality. This is the nature of reality. As above, so below, as within, so without. I thought this was so cool. Cindy had seen this. Look at the human placenta. Look at the tree of life. It is not the human placenta, the tree of life for the fetus.
It's so incredible. When I saw that, just everything, when you have one of those aha moments, it's like so many things came together. It's like, of course it is.
So we've been doing so much channeling, and some of the channeling happens at any moment, any moment. So I don't always get to record them all because many are just spontaneous. And I'll be doing mantras the next thing I know, and this could be the middle of the night. I tend to do mantras if I wake up in the middle of the night until I fall asleep. So sometimes that's an hour or two in the middle of the night. And then that will trigger Cindy often to start channeling. So we were talking to Isis, who is also known as Aset or Osset, and Osiris is her counterpart, or Osir. And she was just communicating about different densities. And, when we're awake, we're in 3D. We've been in 3D. We're moving upwards. When we're asleep, we're basically in a fourth density, or the astral plane, which is absolutely a vast, vast place. And again, there's Buddhist monks that have actually kind of mapped so much of the astral plane. The lower astral plane, which is the place you would enter first, if you're talking about, going from the heaviest to the lightest as we progress upward, as Cindy has said in channelings, there's so many layers to these densities, like in the fifth density alone, where some beings are, where, say, Laurel is. And then if you're talking Lakshmi, there can be a wide expanse between the two, but yet they might know of each other just as we know of them, and we're here on 3D.
Oh yeah, there's many different energies. I kind of want to go back in and understand that a bit better, but from what I can capture, it's like there's density like 5.1 and 5.2, 5.3, all the way up like that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it goes on up through the line. So there's a long progression. And so, what we're talking about really is evolution of the soul. And we are all imbued with the spark of light and life from Source directly. If Source, the true God with the big G, is, again, omnipotent, omnipresent, and omnipotent, it has to be in all of its all of its creations. Otherwise, it wouldn't be. It's just that simple. There's no other way it could be. So we are all, in effect, Source, having a unique experience, experiencing creation from a slightly different angle. So what we've gotten from Isis Osset is, again, many people that are here, and we've gotten the same messages coming from Laurel, in many cases, of the Galactic Federation. About 2/3, or maybe slightly more, the people that are here have only known incarnations on Earth. That's all they've known. And so they haven't been in other places. Now, there's many people that we would call starseeds, light workers, that have been in other places. They've had lives on planets that are on other star systems in this galaxy, perhaps in other galaxies, perhaps in other universes and other realities in total. Again, this is there's a multiverse. So even when we look at the entirety of the entire universe, that's not it. There's so much more. That's just a tiny part of it. And everywhere you go, everywhere you look, consciousness is. It is.
It is.
So again, in one sense, there's nothing to fear. There's really nothing to fear. Of course, nobody wants to cross the street and be hit by a Mack truck, or anything like that. We don't want to have these horrible experiences. Just like when you go on a roller coaster ride, you're in for some thrills and chills and some real fun moments as well. It's the same thing. If you've ever been to Universal Studios or Disney, and you go on some of those rides, there's parts in there that you might say, why did I do this? And there's other parts where, oh God, this is awesome. I don't want this to ever end. And in the end, I think most of the time we say, that was really cool. I'm glad I did that. And in some ways, that's what we're going through now. If we equate you to the Russian dolls, again, you're just one of those layers. You know, what you perceived as yourself is just one of those layers. You're so much more than that. So when we typically leave this existence, we do a life review and then plan what's going to come next, also according to the laws of karma. And then we go ahead and move forward. And often that could take years, decades, hundreds of years, maybe even thousands. It might be a long time before we ever come back.
Right.
You might want to come back to Earth, but you might want to have nothing to do with a particular time period.
That's true.
Yeah, maybe that has a little something to do with the declining fertility rates as well.
Yeah, they're like, we're going to hang back.
Yeah, we're going to hold off from this roller coaster ride because they're going down the big one right now.
I'm sure you guys got this. Thanks, kids.
But what we got to was that everything that we're doing here, we're going to gain experience. And so I know there's so many gamers out there, like gaining hit points. For you gamers out there, if there's still games like that, because I mean, I haven't played a game in decades, so it's been probably 15 years since my son was young. I played any sort of games other than chess. And, you know, gaining hit points, gaining experience points. Well, it is kind of like that. We benefit from that. You could look at like we're leveling up. We know we're getting downloads all the time. And as we've said, many times when you might feel all of a sudden really, really tired, you go to lay down, make a note. Are you seeing swirling energy patterns? Are you feeling energy like rolling into your body? Are you getting pictures in your mind? Are you seeing stuff? Does it feel like somebody is speaking to you? Because often it's downloads. You're getting downloads. You're getting information from your guides. And, you know, a lot of times when we leave this world, we become the guides. That's really common. We say, okay, I think I'm going to take a break from that. You know what? The person that was my brother is going back, and he's going to be a mother this time around in an interesting circumstance. I'll get with his higher self and see if he'll want me to be his guide.
Well, one thing that I've seen that I found quite interesting are people, beings, discarnates / angels, but they are beings, and I have seen them actually observe us as if they were in a classroom.
Yes.
You know, kind of watching us and anticipating, wow, how are these guys going to do this? You know, how learning lessons from other people and how other people do things before they decide to incarnate.
Exactly. Yeah, and that's happened more than once where Cindy has told me, you know, there's like a class here. These guys are going to be angels to be, and they're watching us and they're taking notes and everything. You know, again, as above, so below. The life on the other side is going to be not that different than this life in some respects. Mm-hmm. There's learning, there's exploring, there's playing, there's the arts, all these things. You know, on the other side right now, still one of my mother's favorite pastimes that she's just simply in the habit is playing like crossword puzzles and jumbles. Mm-hmm. She still does that a lot of the time. I mean, she goes out with my dad and stuff like that too, and visits with my brother, but she still has that habit, which was pleasing to her. So she still does it because she can do it. Just now, if she wants to change her clothes, she just has to think it, and her clothes change. And this might sound like a lot of fantasy to many people out there that have been brought up in certain traditions, but this is what we have gotten and have seen and experienced. And we wanted to share it with you because it's very, very reassuring. Now, the dark side does love to cause people to get lost in between and to be in the lower vibrational frequencies. That's why they manufacture wars. You ever wonder, why do we have endless wars? Well, this is part of it. This keeps people trapped in loops. Loops where they could still use them for their loosh, for their energetic food, so to speak. and keep them reincarnating to a lower vibrational frequency that's under their control. That's part of their whole plan. That's why you see the endless warfare. It keeps souls from going upwards. And that's also why you see a certain program and things being pushed in this current time, because there is definitely something out there that people may choose to do, which is going to make it very hard to rise up vibrationally. And again, that's all part of the plan. If we could all see when each other is lying to each other because you could see a change in the colors and the aura around a person, you could actually hear them in their mind, and they might tell you, no, I didn't take that last piece of cake. And then in their mind, they're thinking, damn, that was good. I'm glad I did it. And you could read their mind. They can't lie to you. They can't lie to you. They can't control you. This is what's going on. This is why you see all the chaos. It's because they're no longer going to be able to control you. And the natural order of things will come to pass, because there are many souls they have locked up into staying in this 3 and 4D loop for a longer period of time than they would have if they were not interfered with naturally. They would have already moved on up into the 5th density, into other planes of existence, and been having other experiences.
That's right. So there's just so many different things that are out there that we haven't been introduced to, because all of our lives they've been sending us through some type of study so that we can run their businesses, But there's a whole nother world out there that is so beautiful and so connecting and so centering, that I think it's just a shame if, people are so busy working or keeping up with the Joneses that they miss it. That's a shame.
It is, and for us, there is absolutely nothing that would make us do a certain thing. If you guys know the big question that's out in the land, I don't think it's too hard to figure out what we're talking about. But because we know it from what we have gotten, can it affect the natural progression of souls? We've gotten a resounding yes, absolutely, and that's the main part of everything that's there. That's the number one, even beyond everything that is potentially experienced with that particular thing in 3D. It's beyond that. It's more about hanging on and keeping that 3D, 4D loop going, as opposed to the freedom that one finds when one can get up to 5th density, and really where you are literally in the heavens, so to speak. When people have had visions of the beautiful heavens, often they're actually only seeing the higher astral realm, 4D. And 50 is a place where many souls choose to stay, even though they could go up to 6th and 7th, because it's kind of fun. Mm-hmm. It still has enough density to it, so to speak, to have experiences that are not unlike the experiences we have here. As you move up into the higher and higher densities, everything becomes more and more purely energetic, less of a form, so to speak, and more of just expansion of consciousness.
Yeah, where you can manipulate energy in a much better way, a lot different. So there's a lot between 3D and 5D, but I do see a lot of deities wanting to stay on 5D, even though that they could go higher. They like 5D.
They do. Like we were talking about Yeshua, he likes 5D, but he can go as high as 7D that we've seen for sure. And other beings as well. Isis is basically on 6D. She is a collective, but can transverse higher. Thoth, same thing, can go very high in density, has a lot of wisdom. And, this is what we are finding and experiencing, and we wanted to give to you guys. So, it's not the end of the world when the human leaves this body. In fact, in many cases, people will find it to be a relief of sorts. Yet this is school, and this really was originally meant to be, in so many ways, a playground. And in so many ways, it could be a playground. It could be a wonderful place of deep, rich experiences. It's simply the system that we are in that has twisted and perverted everything. But the good news is, at most, they have about a decade where they are going to be mostly in control, and then it's going to slip out of their grips, and they know this. That's why they're doing everything they can. That's why they have these certain agendas, like 2021. Well, hasn't everything kicked off to a much new level in 2021? And 2030, well, that's when they know it's got to culminate by, because they're going to be out of business soon thereafter. So right now we have 3 years of intense roller coaster ride, 3-4 years ahead of us that we have to just somehow endure and make it through. And that's why we have to do all the things we're doing, preparing mentally, spiritually, physically, keep our body in great shape, keep our minds sharp, and keep building on the spirit, because you can grow by leaps and bounds spiritually in these times. And Isis conveyed too that all the spiritual trials and tribulations that we go through, it is like we're building hit points, if you want to use a gaming system. It's like we're building brownie points. I don't know if that's probably the right terminology, but basically we're accruing credits in the spiritual realm. Mm-hmm. And the more they throw at us, the more we accrue on the other side. So again, we don't want to give in to their lower vibrations and lower our vibrations in turn, because that's exactly what they want us to do.
And we like to call it karmic restitution.
Yes, karmic restitution is what it is. When you've been abused in a way by these beings that understand karma, and so what do? They trick you to go along with the system, trick you into voting for somebody, or maybe not voting for somebody that you thought you vote for, but that's a totally different story. But tricking you to give away your power and going along with their program. It's karmic restitution is most definitely coming. Mm-hmm. Thank you guys for your support on Ko-Fi and Patreon. Thank you for checking out Medicinal Foods. Some great stuff there. When you do order using our link that's on every video, it does support the channel as well. And if you need to make an appointment, it's evolutionaryenergyarts@gmail.com or EEARTS@protonmail.com. God bless and namaste.
Namaste.